For today's video, the idea is to take the simplest, most lifeless drawing I can think of, a single line, and then seeing how much life and animation I can put into that line. So I'll make 3 flipbooks, and in each one I'm going to see what I can do just with animating a simple line. First, I'd like to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Okay, so I wanted to put some life into this line, so my first thought was to kind of make it try to pop itself up into the air. So it tries to lift itself up once, goes back down. The second time it goes up a little further, so you're kind of building that tension. And I thought I could have it start kind of vibrating and build up that energy and then pop itself up. So this is that tension thing again that I've talked about before. Whenever you can do something in your animation to build up more and more potential energy, it's a lot more satisfying when you then release that energy into an action. And once that line got up here, I thought it looked almost hair-like, sort of floaty or lightweight. So I gave it a little hang time up in the air before it falls back down. The only unfortunate thing, you'll notice that the line now is a lot longer than when it started. So I guess it's time to scrap it and do it all over again. Just kidding. That's why I number my pages. Okay, so we'll go ahead and skip ahead here and look at the finished animation. For my second flipbook, I decided to do something a little different, and that was to keep the line stiff like a stick and do something more based in naturalistic physics, like dropping a stick from above and seeing how it bounces. I shot a slow motion video to use as reference. So I took a wooden stick, I dropped it, and then I could go through that video frame by frame and really study how it was moving and bouncing from frame to frame. So based on what was happening in that video, I first mapped out my path for the line to drop down from above. And it's funny because despite the fact that I was studying actual video reference, you would think it would be easier to do this, but the animation was actually a little more difficult than I expected, and it was harder to get it looking right. Here, for example, after it bounces up, when it begins falling back down, the gravity's all wrong, it's falling to the right. So here I threw out the last several pages, and then I did that part again and straightened out the fall. And so from here on out, I was checking my animation much more often. I was test flipping it nearly every page. And that's something about trying to do very realistic or naturalistic animation. When the physics aren't quite right, it can really look off, because we're so naturally very in tune with how real life objects move and behave. So it can be a little trickier to get it looking right. And then it happened again here. After looking at the bounce, I realized it was bouncing way too high. So to fix that, I pulled out each page that was going too high, then traced each one of those pages, and I just offset the new pages so it would end up being lower. This flipbook was actually a really good exercise in learning how something moves. If all I did was to just watch the slow motion video of a stick falling, I wouldn't have learned as much, but I found that by having to animate that same action, I really had to study each frame and see what was happening frame by frame so that I could replicate it. So in the end, here's how it came out. For the third flipbook, I went back to doing something a little more playful along the lines of the first one, and I had an idea to make the line kind of shoot around the page, bouncing off the edges of the page. To give it a sense of fast speed, I went with really big increments here, and I made the lines really long, so it feels like it's just moving, covering a lot of ground each frame. But at this point, after it landed, after zipping around so fast, I felt like I wanted to smooth out the motion a bit. So I went back and I added in-between frames. So by lining up 2 pages to trace over, I could see where my in-between drawing needed to be. So after adding all the in-between pages, it slowed the motion somewhat, but then you can flip it faster and it feels smoother. Next, I decided to have the line roll up along the sides of the page. This is all just totally random, and actually that's what I really like about doing flipbooks like this. It's like doodling. It's kind of relaxing in that way. They're really quick, and you can kind of just wander with your ideas and kind of do whatever you think of. It's low pressure too. You don't have to have like a big epic story idea. You can just have fun and kind of play around with movement. As it rolls up along the sides, it's a really fast movement here again, and I also wanted to smooth out this part, but I wanted to keep the speed. I didn't want to add any in-between frames, so all I had to do was draw motion blurs on the pages, and then I could keep the same speed, but it feels smoother and less stroby. I love doing this too because of how simple it is. It's the perfect thing to try if you don't feel like you can draw well, because you literally don't even have to be able to draw a stick figure. So just experiment, play around with movement, and see what you can do. This one was really fun. It ended up being a pretty big stack of paper in the end. So let's go ahead and jump to the end and see the finished animation. I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I was really excited for the opportunity to work with Squarespace because I've been using Squarespace since 2014. I really love it. It's simple. The interface is great, and managing orders and inventory has been really easy. So if you're working on your own side hustle or you're ready to start a business, head over to squarespace.com/Andymation to start your free trial. And then when you're ready to launch, be sure to use offer code Andymation to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much for watching. Keep being creative, and I'll see you in the next video.